Okay, hello. So my name is AJ Bennion, and I decided to do my 30-day training program based around my cousin, who's a high school athlete right now. He is planning to become a football player at the college level. So combining my expertise in sports and what I've learned so far in this class this semester, I thought this would be kind of a fun challenge to tackle and see what we can do for him. So first, Alright, so just as an overview of what I hope he can gain from these 30 days, I want him to be able to improve his speed, his body composition. I know that takes a lot longer than 30 days, but if we can kind of get like a baseline, and if he can develop some good habits, hopefully we can change that. And then mobility is a big thing that I want to improve on for him, because that's honestly been his thing that's held him back mostly with offer wise, coaches not wanting to really take a chance yet, and then also just the mental toughness. That's 50% of what college or of what football is really, is just your mental toughness. And so improving that is going to be very important. And then, so combining physical training with the sports psychology principles I mentioned earlier, I'm going to hopefully be able to combine those to where they are both used effectively, and then focusing on long-term development. And so hopefully after these 30 days, he's able to, take more from it than just it was a 30-day training program, and hopefully he can make some habits out of it. All right, so before I go into the program that I have for him, I wanted to talk a little bit about him. He's 6'5", 320 pounds, so it's ideal size for a college offensive lineman. He benches 315 pounds, he squats 500 pounds, and deadlifts 535 pounds. And these measurements came straight from him, so I'm sure he was very proud to be able to have these mentioned. And then his 40-yard dash is where it falls a little flat, I'm not going to lie. That's something I'm going to look to improve on, and you will see in the program that I've designed for him. Hopefully we can get that up. And then the end goal is to earn collegiate football opportunities. So, I don't know, hopefully this can, put him on the right path to get those opportunities. So, of course, his injury history is something I had to consider when I was designing this program. So he has experienced a hyperextended elbow and knee, tendonitis in his wrists and elbows. He's got arthritis in his fingers. I didn't know that was possible at 17 years old. He suffered many concussions. I know that. He's got a dislocated rib, I don't know if he still has it. Hopefully he doesn't. And so the program is emphasizing on, really just preventing injuries altogether and hopefully not aggravating anything. Okay, so for my 30-day program, I wanted to do it in phases. And so phase 1 consists of building a foundation. So for the first 5 days, I want to work on strengthening his base. So doing some leg workouts, core workouts, and just getting him used to the idea of working out in this program. I also wanted to include, for the mental component, mindfulness, journaling, and then visualization. These are all super important when it comes to developing consistency, and especially where he is in his career, being in high school and not really knowing where his talent will take him. And so just taking a second every day, at least for the first 5 days, to know what he wants to do and know what he's working towards. That's kind of what I imagine for the mental component. Okay, so the second phase I mentioned in the last slide is consistency. So this is, in my opinion, probably the most important part of any training program. So most people can stay motivated for a few days, but sticking with something for an entire month is, it's tough. It's 30 days long period of time. And so this phase includes sprint work, footwork drills, and then reviewing SMART goals. And so SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and then time bound. And so instead of saying, I want to get faster, you can set a goal like improving his 40-yard dash over that specific period of time. It's a little more easy to track. Okay, so phase 3 focuses on developing athleticism. By this point in the program, he's already established a foundation and demonstrated consistency. So I wanted to emphasize more football-specific movements and explosive power. So this phase includes power cleans, broad jumps, medicine ball slams, blocking drills, hand placement drills, and mirror drills. These are all going to be incorporated there. And so these were selected because modern offensive linemen are expected to do so much more than just be big humans. And so they need to be able to move laterally and do it quickly. And so psychologically, the phase continues the use of mindfulness, journaling, positive self-talk, and being able to visualize. And so I specifically included visualization because I think it's one of the most underrated tools in sports psychology. So, for example, before a game, an athlete can mentally rehearse making the correct block or, winning a matchup or, successfully executing a play. So for my cousin, I would have him spend, about 10 minutes visualizing these performances, both in practice and in game. So phase 4 is centered around peak performance. And so by this point, he's built a foundation, he's got consistency down, and he's, worked on improving his athleticism. And so now the focus shifts towards, just maximizing his performance. And that comes from speed training and then also just position-specific work. And so this includes 40-yard dash practice, sprint intervals, agility drills, offensive line footwork, stuff like that will get his feet up to the speed they need to be. And then I also included film study here because I think it's one of the easiest ways for athletes to improve, without putting additional stress on their bodies. And he'll do this a lot during practice, of course, but I think taking maybe 30 minutes out of the day to watch his practice or watch a offensive lineman pro that he likes, watch their film, I think that can be very beneficial. So phase 5 focuses on mindset development. Throughout the program, I wanted to emphasize that athletic success is much more than just, of course, the physical aspect of it. So for this phase, I wanted to continue strength and conditioning, of course, but do that while placing a greater emphasis on his confidence, resilience, and just overall intrinsic motivation. And so I included positive self-talk, journaling, reflection exercises, because a lot of the time athletes can become their own biggest critics, and so just introducing that I think was important. The phase also connects directly to self-determination theory, which suggests that people are more likely to maintain behaviors when they're internally motivated. And so scholarships and recognition and all these external factors are great, but if you don't have a reason for doing it in your mind, or you're not wanting to become a better version of yourself, then it all kind of falls flat. And ultimately, I don't know if you can reach those goals fully. Okay, so for the final phase, I want to focus on future planning. So we'll get new measurements on his 40-yard dash, bench press, squat, just see if he's increased any of his maxes, which is hopefully the case. I want him to complete a self-assessment, how he's felt it over the last 30 days and what he's gained from it. And then I also want to create another program, and it doesn't necessarily have to be 90 days, but I think 90 days would be a good period of time for another plan and to keep building consistency. Hopefully he's completed the 30 days up to this point successfully. Um, and I want to say that even if he doesn't, successfully accomplish every single goal, I want him to understand overall that long term success is really built through small, consistent efforts over time. And so, yeah. So this is kind of just an overview of what I want the mental side to look like. I didn't really go too in depth for each phase because they're all going to kind of be similar. Um, they'll include, daily mindfulness exercises, positive self-talk, journaling, visualization, and then of course just creating small goals every week. And on top of that, film study I think is important. And so from a psychological perspective, the program incorporates a lot of the concepts that we've talked about over the semester. And so the first is social cognitive theory, specifically self-efficacy. And so research shows that individuals are more likely to persist when they believe they're capable of succeeding. And then I also incorporated SMART goals to improve motivation and adherence, mindfulness practices to improve emotional regulation, and then self-determination theory to encourage intrinsic motivation. So I wanted to end the presentation off just by going over some things that I've learned over the course of the semester, and by creating the program. First is that body and mind development go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. If you focus on one thing, or say you focus on the physical components more than the mental components, it's not going to work out great for you. It'll eventually catch up those deficiencies. So it's important to equally focus on both. Also, that success requires consistency and commitment. You need to be able to meet these small goals and be able to consistently hit them, because without it, you're not really going to be improving. And then also that psychology plays a major role in athletic performance. I knew that psychology was a big part of sports and why professional athletes are at the level they're at. A lot of it is mental. And then, the program is going to prepare the athlete for future growth, hopefully.